It's Joe, your faithful host and co-founder of Command Control Power, the longest running Apple consulting podcast. In case you missed our birthday, we just celebrated our 10th anniversary this summer. For 10 years, we've been getting together each and every week to bring you epic tales of tech support and business management, and I'm pretty sure we've saved a lot of people a ton of time by sharing our struggles and solutions. Starting now, we're shifting our focus to the Patreon community. That means the newest shows will be posted primarily on Patreon. How do you get the latest episodes? Visit commandcontrolpower.com and click on support. Pledge monthly, and you can instantly subscribe to the weekly patron-only episodes right in your favorite podcast app. If you already support us on Patreon, log in there to get your special link and subscribe to the patron-only show so you don't miss anything. Here on the public show, we'll be featuring classic episodes hand-selected for you from our catalog of over 500 episodes, along with occasional new episodes too. And remember, we're regularly releasing new content on Patreon, where you can join our community of supporters starting at just $15 per month, giving you access to the freshest content. We feature dozens of exclusive shows on Patreon where we speak a little more freely about how we make business decisions, navigate client relationships, manage our employees, and sometimes deal with mistakes and difficulties too. Plus, as a patron, you receive access to our entire back catalog where you can revisit classic episodes and learn from colleagues we've interviewed who've shared their own best practices. Visit commandcontrolpower.com and click support to pledge monthly on Patreon. We'd really appreciate your support, and we're confident your business will benefit from the wisdom of the community we've gathered there. Thanks for listening, and we hope you enjoy this episode of Command Control Power.
So I've got a client who's in the real estate business, and he's an army of one, and he lives and dies by Acrobat Pro. And I believe he's running Monterey. And there's this annoying issue going on where you open up Acrobat Pro and you get a white screen. Like a box within a box, but within the application, and it floats. You can move it around, but it's completely white. So you try all the normal things, going to Adobe and making sure it's updated, deinstalling the program, downloading a fresh copy, reinstalling it. Same thing over and over again, chasing it down. And I can't bill the guy for this time. He doesn't ask for much. He's on a regular recurring monthly program. So sometimes you get those where you never hear from the person and you want to do them a solid. So long story short, I did Googling, and this has existed in many forums, and there were many solutions that people offered up in the Adobe forums, and nothing worked. So finally, because it's a paid product, I reached out to Adobe support, got somebody overseas. And this is not, I should have known this, but public service announcement. If you open up and preferences, and this has been the resolution with other instances of this, but not in this particular format. So other settings within the Adobe Acrobat preferences. But this one is, you go to security, and then it says parentheses enhanced, and you uncheck enable enhanced security. And auto-magically, you restart the program and the white box is gone. And the guy from Adobe knew it right away because he probably is dealing with this somewhat frequently. Online, I defied myself to find that solution. Like I said, there were many others. Who knew?
Wow.
I must have jerked around with this for close to an hour, just trying to solve it.
Oh yeah, I've been there with Acrobat. I have one to add on to that because I did the same thing. I was Googling, I was searching. Finally, I ended up in the Adobe support community, searching there. Found a thread that seemed like the thread about this issue. My issue was that in Acrobat, I think you said yours was real estate?
Yep.
And yeah, mine is interior design. And so they have these big layout floor plan type thing that's probably made in architectural software. So it's like very detailed, high resolution, large size, maybe several pages, things like that. So they have to scroll in and out, move around, pan around and zoom and whatnot. And other people are just reporting this behavior in normal PDFs. But the issue is that it's incredibly laggy and slow to move around the document and or zoom in, zoom out. So the user reports this, and I go on and I open up Acrobat. I open up a recent item and I just drag around and move, and it's fine. I write them back. I don't see the problem. Is it still happening? Let me know. Yes, it's still happening. And so then like she gets on, I get connected with the user. I say, okay, show me what you're doing because I didn't see it. So she goes in and it's working fine. And she's like, of course, you're on the phone. Of course it's fine. And I'm like, yeah, I hear that all the time. So we stay in it for a few more minutes and find that if you zoom into some weird, whatever the zoom level is that triggers this, or maybe it's just not the default, once you're zoomed in slightly even, and then you pan around, it gets really laggy, like it's having trouble drawing the page. So I find this thread and other people are describing this, and it's probably lots of different causes. And that's the problem with trying to solve something like this is your issue is XYZ, mine is ABC. And so it's tricky. So anyway, I found a solution that was a sub point in someone else's post that wasn't even marked as the correct answer kind of thing. So it's just like this obscure thing buried in there. And I tried, and they had multiple things. I had to try all these different combinations. So it's in preferences, page display, rendering. And for me, I simply unchecked smooth images. So, okay, don't smooth images. Nobody wants you to do that. I don't really know what they're going to be lacking now, but everything looks good and it scrolls like butter, as you might say.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's crazy because if you Google empty white box Adobe Acrobat, the first hit right at the top kicks you into the forum, and somebody says that the solution is to run Acrobat Distiller DC, and that solved it. Just to sign into that.
Sure.
So what the heck?
And so I took the time. Now, I don't know, you weren't in the forums with this, but I already was. And of course, so as I'm reading this thing, I mark it for let me know when somebody replies, whatever. When I found what worked, I made a little post. It told people what worked for me. So then I later, like a couple weeks later, got a thing where somebody marked my answer as correct. Like it worked for them also. So I was happy that I had distilled like all this like wall of text of like things to try into this specific thing worked for me, just to hopefully help somebody cut to the chase on that. Because yeah, you spin your gears in this, and I hear you about wanting to do a solid for somebody who's paying you, and you just you don't want to like then send them an additional bill for all this hours of troubleshooting.
And I explained that to him. He was a real gentleman. And I said, look, the next person who calls me is going to benefit. If I charge you, they're going to benefit from you paying for their tech support. So that doesn't seem fair to me. So we'll catch you on the next one.
Yeah,
and he was highly appreciative. But it's interesting finding things on the internet. It just reminded me, you get a call from a client, a random call, and it says, yeah, my mouse is jumping around the screen. And as you probably know, there's many posts about this.
Oh yeah, exactly. I love that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
And I always tell clients, I said, no matter what your problem is, if you Google it, you're going to find many posts about your problem. So it doesn't mean this is a hot topic among Apple consultants, the jumping cursor across the screen.
Exactly. I know. They always think it is, though. It's so funny.
Yeah. I had a call today, and you probably have had these calls where person's a subscriber to a domain within Gmail. They're hosting their mail and the domain is with Gmail, and all the data in their folders disappeared and everything's in the garbage.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Select all, delete. Yeah. No big deal.
Yeah.
Yep.
You log into the web version of Gmail and all the labels are there, but there's nothing attached to the labels because everything's gone. And here's the interesting thing. So we looked in the trash, and somehow the trash had been emptied. So I'm like, man. Oh boy, here we go. But I remembered from a previous call like this, if you're a subscriber and you go to your admin, your domain admin, and they can go to your user account, and as long as you're within, I think it's a 25-day window, you can restore all that mail back.
Yeah, exactly. Which is it 25? I was thinking maybe a 30 or something, but whatever it is, yeah.
That makes too much sense, Joe.
Yeah, but like you said, if you're a paid subscriber, it's amazing what people expect from free services. Like I have a client who, this just reminds me of they're super pissed that their Instagram account was quote unquote stolen. And
you chatted with me offline about that. Before you start your story, Can you just tell me what was their handle or what was their name? Because I had one that at a time that was called Jerry Z, and that got hacked into and I lost it. But I found that somebody in the public eye was a Jerry Z or something like that. So I was wondering if that was one of those, would you call them gangster names or
an OG, right? An OG username, original gangster username. Yeah. Like a short username has value apparently for obvious reasons. Like people want a short name. Just find me on Instagram. I'm Jerry Z or whatever. Or so there's like a prestige about it. Same reason you bought your shorter domain name. It's like the prestige of just having a nice, clean username, but I think it's also valuable, I don't know, somehow maybe people trust it more, so they're more likely to click something on it. And if you steal a short name and then use it to spam all the contacts there, that's more likely to succeed than if you have Jerry Z1059274.
Right.
So
how about this client? Did they have something that was OG like?
I don't know. I wasn't involved in looking into it. Tim helped her just do there's like a process. First of all, this is another area where you find advice. It's all kinds of misleading because people use the term hacked for a lot of reasons or whatever. So you have
Apple
to
Tim helped her?
Yeah, you have to just navigate through. No, my Tim. Okay. You have to navigate through and find your way to someone else has access to my account and I'm not able to reset the password. Now, to take a step back, the issue is that they obviously use bad passwords. They use reused passwords, probably a password that ends up on some list of frequently used passwords by everyone out there on the internet, or actually phished credentials from this person for a different service that some hacker figures out is their password for Instagram or whatever. So they get in and there's no phone number. So there's no multi-factor authentication. So the hacker, first thing they do is add their phone number. So now you're totally locked out of your account. You have no recourse to reset your password, receive a code sent to your phone or anything like that because it's the hacker's phone. So that's usually what happens. That's when they call us. And you can go through these steps to say, someone else has access to my account and I need to just prove my identity. And then you let me, this person, contacting you from some other email address, right? It's my email is no longer associated with this account. My phone number is not associated with this account. As far as Facebook knows, Meta, they knows you don't have any association with this Instagram account. Now you're emailing Meta to say, give me access to this account. So you have to prove your identity. They make you take a video of you holding your license up, this person holding their license up to say, this is really who I am. And then they're supposed to then get back in touch with you when some human reviews this video. So the two avenues that usually happen from there is that you don't hear back from them at all, which I've had that happen with clients, or you hear back right away and it's, I'm sorry, you didn't provide enough information, blah, blah, blah. So they just, it's a dead end either way. And so what I say to clients is, I don't say it like this usually, but it's like you're getting what you pay for. I mean, this was a free service that you signed up for. I don't say it like this either, but like you didn't maintain good hygiene with this account. You know, you like used some password that you use for 20 other things. And when you got the password reset emails, you ignored them, that somebody was breaking into your account. And you waited a week to call me. You basically didn't really do much about this. What do you expect them to do? This is a free service. You're not paying them. They're not motivated to help you, is what I'm trying to tell clients about this. So it just reminds me when they call about, in your case, the Gmail issue, sometimes they just have free Gmail. And they're, what the heck, Google? Help me. And it's, why should they? Why should they spend resources on helping you continue to use this free service?
They're outraged.
Yeah.
How dare they pull such shenanigans for something I get for free?
Exactly. Yeah. And then I see it, of course, from the client perspective. It's not the client's fault. That's just the way things are. That's what the industry has decided. The internet is founded on free with ads, basically. And I think free with ads is the root cause of a lot of problems, not only just like problems with online services and like the dark patterns you find there, but problems in society. Promoting content at any cost, prioritizing engagement as the number one factor. If this gets people to keep looking at the screen, regardless of what they're looking at, that's what we want. That's bad. And that's a bad incentive that falls directly from the fact that everything is free. You just have to look at ads. And these are other
like
examples
YouTube.
Of that. Yeah. All of the things. Yeah. But clients don't know. They don't know that they're supposed to look for a better version of something that they have to pay for. No one's inclined to say, yeah, that's all well and good, but is there a version that I can pay for? No one says that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. This same client who blew all her email away, I did her a solid because she's a subscriber. And I went probably a little bit too long with my chatter because she said, I have a tangentially related question. And it was completely from left field. And it was an interesting question. So I'll share it here. So she said, I have a Subaru. And I'm thinking like, okay, what are we going to talk about? CarPlay, this is where we're headed. And she said, I want to know what they're doing with my data. And I said, well, wow. Time out. What do you mean? Yeah. And she said, I get notifications if she takes her eyes off the road because she's got some sort of driving assist built into her car. And this is a safety feature. A lot of cars have sensors, front and left tires, rear tires, that sort of thing. So if you veer close to the white line, you get a little jolt that puts you back on the road. And you also get something which monitors the driver attention. And she said, I don't like that. I said, I'm sure they're required by law to have you defeat that.
It's nobody's business if I'm looking at where I'm going.
Well, that's what she said. She said, where is this information going? I said, there's probably a black box in your car. And when you bring it to the Subaru dealer and you connect to the onboard diagnostics, when he connects or she, they'll be able to pull information. And there's probably some geolocation in there. Who knows? But as long as your car, when you pull it in the driveway, doesn't somehow connect to your Wi-Fi at home, because that was your part of your initial setup process, I said that data is probably not going anywhere. But I would just ask the dealership, how do I disable that? Driver attention monitoring or something like that. And I said, you're probably going to have to turn the whole system off rather than just say, I don't want it tracking my eyes. Yeah. If I veer off into the breakdown lane, I want it to notify me.
Right. Only like in extreme cases do I want it to notify me. If I hit a wall, if I hit a brick wall, I want it to wake me up and just revive me. It's a weird approach, but I understand where she's coming from with feeling like that's very proprietary data. But that's a good point you have about it's probably something that they're logging also, because it's like if there's an accident, don't they can tell like that the person didn't apply the brake or something like that.
I gave her that as an example. So in the Tesla, absolutely, because it's liability. Was this person using auto-attended driving and killed those people, or did he actually have his hands on the wheel? Because we noticed that 5 milliseconds before he hit the brakes way too late. But I think a Subaru wouldn't have that high-end tracking feature.
You mean where it's like regularly phoning home like that? Some of them do. Some cars just have cellular built in. And I guess this is like not an uncommon thing to have anymore, because it's not like it's full data service. It's just like sending very limited amounts of data. So there's apparently plans that these manufacturers can get that can maintain that kind of connection, like the Tesla, even for software updates and things like that. I think it's more like a user agreement kind of thing, right? End user license agreement.
Yeah. But again, I think they're required by law. You can turn this off. I don't know if you could turn it off in a Tesla. Again, I'm speaking without any knowledge of either one of these cars, but I think with the Subaru or like my Honda, I could turn off the driving assist. It's not tracking my driver attention, but it is tracking, or it's knowing if I'm going off the road.
Right. Yeah. Some of those things are just built in where it has to be part of the feature if you want that feature enabled. Yeah. And so it's laws too. My van has a governor where I can't go above a certain speed. If I'm accelerating, if I'm pressing the accelerator and I'm going above 80 something miles per hour, which there's roads where you can legally go that speed. It's just that it's a big van and it's heavy. And so it shouldn't go above that speed. And there's never or very rarely an occasion where I would need to go above that speed. So this doesn't really bother me, but that would be like me asking, can you turn that off? I assume it's a legal thing. I'm not going to try to defeat that kind of system in my vehicle.
One other little PSA, and again, there's so many things that can go wrong with just doing anything these days. So you were very kind and gracious and heroic to work with me to get Nudge operational within Addigy. And I want to thank you for all the time you spent with me. And it was no mean feat to actually get that running. That was, at least to my simple mind, extremely complicated. And I'm sure we could do a whole show on that. And I know we've talked in the past about Nudge. But so I was very meticulously and discretionally pushing it out to some clients. So there's a guy who I support, him and his wife, and they're over in Ireland. And I noticed that he hadn't restarted his Mac in 90 days. So you shared in the Addigy community a really nice script for best practice to restart your computer. So he restarted his computer. Hooray, after 90 days.
Nice.
So that worked. And he was on 13.4 and I needed him to get to 13.6.1. And he said, I can't do it. I'm having problems. So I'm like, all right, what the heck? So I'm looking and sure enough, Nudge seems to be working. So I said, all right, what's the message you're getting? And for the life of me, I had never seen this message before, but it's an Apple message and it says, failed to personalize the software update. Please try again.
Huh.
You ever seen that?
It sounds familiar. I think I have, but I think it's rare. What the heck?
Yeah, what the heck? So Apple, if you put that into search, Apple's just got a knowledge-based thing that tells people to start up in safe mode or repair the disk or restart, blah, 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 the typical thing. But I said to him, I've got a minute. Can I log in and just take a look? And he goes, sure. So I log into his computer and I see that he's got the software update window and I see the message. He left the message up there. And right in the background, he's using NordVPN.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So there you go. So he was trying to pull down this software update from Apple, from one of the Apple CDNs. I emailed him back and I said, it's your VPN. So I said, turn off your VPN and try to get it. He goes, it didn't work. And I'm like, okay, like here's the safe boot, do the safe boot, restart your computer again. And this time run it, but make sure your VPN's off. Mm-hmm. And about 5 minutes later, he emails me back and he said, oh, I'm much further than I was before. It's hallelujah. So I just looked at him in Addigy a little while ago and he's on 13.6.1. So major breakthrough. It's all these crazy little things that come up for clients, and some are challenges for them and some are challenges for us, but you never know.
Yeah, totally. I was happy to help you yesterday. I'm glad you got it working. And you're talking about not just Nudge, because Nudge is actually easy. You had that going pretty quickly, but the Apple script from Ross Matsuda, as we mentioned in a previous show, I forget if it was Patreon or public. We had interviewed Ross a while back, about maybe 6 months ago or something. And part of the reason I wanted to talk to him was because of all of his heavy lifting on setting this stuff up. So he has this like awesome Apple script that you build into an Apple script app, essentially, that uses GUI scripting to click buttons and things. And I think we talked about it on the show recently as well, circling back to that. And so it's a way of taking that extra step, because what Nudge normally does is it says there's an update, just kick the user over to software update and they'll handle the rest. But the issue is if you're on macOS 13.6, let's say in your case, and you want to go to 13.6.1 or whatever. Mm-hmm. And there's also the update to Sonoma now. That's, as we always joke, it's this heavily marketed thing that's appearing at the top of the software update panel. And Apple really would prefer if you just go all the way to 14.1 in this case. And you just want them to go more easily to 13.6.1. To do that, you're either explaining things to your client over and over again about more info underneath, other updates are available, or another update is available. Look for that terminology. It could be either of those two phrases, and then click more info. And maybe you're not seeing it because maybe software update is messed up and you have to kickstart that process and get it to show up there. And that's a lot of stuff to be dealing with the type of client you're describing. And so, yeah, this Apple script just takes the next couple of steps of showing that panel, selecting that update, and then prompting the user to just agree and enter their password. So it saves, It's worth it to put that in, but it's Apple script. It's GUI scripting, therefore using PPPC. So you have to set that up as part of Addigy. Because you're using PPPC, you also need to code sign the compiled Apple script app, as you found, and that can be tricky. What was your observation with like why the code signing wasn't working? I thought that was interesting.
Oh, I was trying to sign it. I was working with the app and it was on the desktop. And I had seen some weirdness before with apps misbehaving when they were in a Dropbox folder. Right. And that was the connective tissue that made me think, iCloud Drive is on, maybe there's some sort of weirdness going on here. So I just moved it to the root of the home folder and then used Terminal to code sign it, and it magically code signed.
Yeah, I thought that was a great point, that the fact that wasn't working for you. I think I have signed it on my desktop. I don't think I have iCloud Drive turned on when I did that. So I think that may be the issue there. And it just shows you there's just these extra little curveballs that get thrown in. And it's tricky stuff because I haven't had to code sign anything else in as far as I can remember. It's just I had to do that as part of this process. And I learned something following Ross's steps and learning what that process is like, but you also need a developer certificate to do that. And so you had to sign up for that. And it's just, there's lots of little steps for that, but it is worth it. Once you get it set up, it's like literally just check a few boxes and now it's deployed to the client and you're suddenly keeping everybody more up to date. The next thing is to then add those scripts in and custom facts and monitoring items, better yet, to automatically kickstart the software update process as often as needed, but no more often than that. It's like a very subtle thing. These custom facts and monitoring items check to see whether software update is telling you, the admin, telling the user that there's an update that actually it should be finding. So in other words, like if Nudge says, okay, Jerry set this up and Jerry told me that there's a 13.6.1 that I'm looking for. Nudge says, okay, the macOS is apparently running 13.4. It needs 13.6.1. So I'm going to pop up a message that says, you better update. So that's all Nudge is doing. They're just saying, this is not up to date. The software update preference might not see that update. The software update process may not be reporting that update as available. So the user might go to software update and they're not seeing the update. That's what these scripts are designed to do, is to say, is there an update available that should be shown? Okay. Basically, what's the latest? 13.6.1. Which version am I running? Not 13.6.1. Okay. What does software update list as available updates? Software update is only listing Safari. And so that's a problem because software update should be listing 13.6.1. So then the next step is, if that's the situation, kickstart software update. And then check again. Oh, now it shows 13.6.1. It's just amazing to me that we have to deal with all of the stuff we've just been talking about and spend an entire day setting it up just so we have the ability to keep our customers up to date.
To coin one of your favorite phrases, this should be table stakes.
Right.
We shouldn't have to worry about this.
Yeah.
We should be frying bigger fish than this.
Yeah, this should be built in. It's not like Apple disagrees with us. It's not like we're saying you need to stay up to date. And Apple's, it's fine. 13.1, 13.2, it's fine. They agree. They'll get up to date as quickly as possible. Get up to date with as up to date as you can be. But then as far as the tools go, they don't give us the fine-grained control of saying, here's an easy way to update 13 to 13.6.1. Their tools just go like pretty much promote the brute force of just get up to date with macOS Sonoma on day 0, which is not what we want.
And have you seen the most recent link to that when system updates opens? It's a long tome about how great Sonoma is.
It used to be a little banner at the top. Now, so if you want to explain to them, you have to say, ignore all of that stuff. And you're like saying, oh, forget about Sonoma. And then that sticks in their head. Like when you do want them to upgrade to Sonoma later, I thought you said, no, it's just that. Right. So anyway, it's like scroll past all of that. And if you're still with me, now you're looking for a thing that says other update. It's like looking for an asterisk and a little fine print at the bottom. Right.
And it gives them the impression that you're offering something that's lesser than.
Yeah. Like you're like, why you want me to do this? Yeah.
Why should I get the thing that's at the bottom instead of the nice thing that's at the top?
Exactly.
Client assumptions are really hilarious. I have one educational school and I talk about them from time to time. And one of the administrators had been telling all his staff, all the faculty, not to do any updates. And I recently had a conversation with him. He said, oh, because you said never to do an update. I'm like, wait a minute.
I know.
Hold on a minute, Jackson. Never. Maybe out of context.
Exactly. That's how I take it too, is what did you misinterpret that I said? Now right. I'm trying to remember what might have led you to believe that. Because then also in my mind, I have other people on my team. And so did Tim wouldn't have told you that, but what could Tim have said that you interpreted that way? And how do I have to try to maybe clarify with Tim? But it's just the client making up some crazy stuff. And they're just, I'm like, no, I didn't say that. I don't know. And you don't want to say it like that either. I never said that.
I had to be pretty strong-handed with putting that out there. Because I felt so outraged by it. No,
Yeah, don't repeat that to people. Jerry says never update. I don't want that reputation either.
All right, see, guys, it's never to update.
Yeah. Oh, man. I know. Managing the
crazy.
reputation is a whole thing.
Some of that must have been at some point backlash from Apple always like popping up an update screen. And this particular institution, they're on FileMaker Pro and a certain version. If you upgrade to Sonoma, then this version of FileMaker Pro, Clara says it won't work. Yeah. Who the hell knows? Some of that taken out of context.
That's a good point. I think a lot of it is upgrade versus update. They just don't appreciate the subtlety of that distinction. And fair enough. They're just like, it's like a lot of information. Just tell me what to do. And if they internalize it as just never update, and really you're saying don't upgrade in the first month or something, that's a little bit more subtle. But it's funny to me, like you just brought up this whole issue. Sometimes when you're doing a software upgrade, you need to also upgrade other software. If you're upgrading macOS, you need to upgrade FileMaker Server, or maybe you just need to just make sure it's running or whatever. We've had computers, we've had personal computers for a long time now, like decades. This is not like a new cutting edge. My feeling on this is this should be handled by the platform vendor by now. Like Apple should say, and they do like in a migration, they say something like, this old software wasn't migrated because it's no longer compatible. Well, that's nice, but what about if I'm about to upgrade my system that I use every day for running my business or whatever, and you can see Apple because you can see like the date of last open and how often I open FileMaker or whatever. Like you can probably find a way to tell that the following 5 apps, I need them every day. Don't suggest that I upgrade to the latest macOS if any one of those apps is not going to open. Is that asking a lot? Why should that be on your client to know that, or for us as consultants to use kludgy ways of stopping them from upgrading? Because there's danger if they upgrade, they may not be able to function in some significant way. Like, why is that all of our collective problems? Why is that not built into Apple's upgrade process?
Or at least a disclaimer.
Yeah.
Warning, if you upgrade, you have the possibility of losing access to some of your key applications. Please make sure that you have consulted with a computer professional or your local Apple store, blah, blah, blah. Just something.
Yeah, that's probably asking too much. I agree with you, but I think like Apple would never put something up that says danger, new macOS danger in any kind of way. They should just do the hard work of actually determining if this is going to go smoothly or not for the end user. Maybe there should always be a warning of some sort, like back up your data first or something. I don't know.
The Apple Store doesn't back up the data, so why should they?
Yeah, that'll be the number one reason that we finally get iCloud Drive or iCloud backup for Mac is Apple doesn't want to have to tell every customer that if something happened to your computer system, you may very well lose all your data. I think that they would love to have a solution where they can say, hey, look, your iCloud says your Mac is backed up as of right before this problem occurred.
Yeah, let's reformat the drive and see how we land by restoring.
Exactly.
Yeah, they're headed there. We mentioned that a couple of weeks ago when we had Mike Bombick from Carbon Copy Cloner on the show. That was possibly where Apple was headed, and that's why they don't care about Time Machine. But speaking about new Apple products, actually they're not new anymore because they were released a couple of weeks ago. But Joe, you have some thoughts on the new iMacs and the new MacBook Pros you'd like to share?
Yeah, it's just relevant to my clientele. I have a bunch of tickets in our ticketing system that we've been advising clients to wait on the iMac. I know I'm not supposed to say that. Don't tell Apple that I'm telling them not to buy a computer. When was the last time this happened? I feel like there was this notorious window where we kept
thinking... It was a Mac Mini.
Was it the Mac Mini? I think there was. It was also a laptop, maybe. Like there was a time where any day now, I'm sure they're going to announce they can't possibly keep this computer around any longer. When it was 3.5 years or something, it's been 2.5 years for the iMac. The iMac 24-inch was the first Apple Silicon machine, and it's a great system, but it tops out at 2 terabytes of storage, and at that time topped out at 16 gigs of memory, which is probably fine for an iMac. But the storage was an issue for some of my needs. And yes, you can go Mac Mini, or you can even go Mac Studio if you really want an iMac Pro replacement. But Mac Mini and an Apple Studio Display is a perfectly good option. But I really like the all-in-one kind of design. I think it's just easier to walk clients through. This is how your computer works. Plug it in. It's pretty easy to do remotely. So I've been hoping that they would come out with an iMac with more storage. And they did come out with a new iMac, but it doesn't have any more storage. Still tops out at 2 terabytes. So I was disappointed in that. And I'm not sure what I'll be recommending to my clients. I have to just analyze that now to determine that. So my main concern isn't even performance between Mac Mini and iMac, M2 versus M3, et cetera. It's really just, I wish there were a simple iMac that would work for more of my clients. Even a 4 terabyte option would serve a lot of needs for my clientele. 2 terabytes is definitely decent for most people that would just have a simple old iMac, but it doesn't solve every problem. So that was one downside for me. I thought the other lineup change was interesting, where there's a new 14-inch MacBook Pro M3 base model, which essentially replaces the MacBook Pro 13-inch M2 model with the touch bar. So there's a link. Jerry, do you use the Apple compare Mac models page?
I do from time to time. Yep. Yeah. Basically, I've looked at it most recently with the Mac Mini for what you had mentioned off mic, the Mac Mini M2 versus the new M3 iMac. But they don't really give you the meat and potatoes, the
actual
speeds
performance.
And, speeds and feeds.
Like a Geekbench measurement or something.
It is interesting, though, this 14-inch MacBook Pro that you mentioned, that's just a straight G3, you could only get a 2 terabyte drive. So there must be something with the architecture that's limiting drive size. I can't
Possible.
figure that out.
Yeah. I wonder if it's just they're not going to manufacture storage larger than whatever size, and you would need several of those to get to above 2 terabytes, and the number of PCI channels on the chip or something like that, where you have to actually interface with that more of those storage devices or whatever. I'm not really sure. Or it's just like a product line differentiation kind of thing. Although, again, with the iMac, are they trying to encourage people to go Mac Mini or Mac Studio to get more storage space? I'm not really sure. I could understand it in the entry-level MacBook Pro versus one of the M3 Pro or M3 Max MacBook Pro models with the more storage option. But yeah, I think it's instructive to compare 13-inch M2 to 14-inch M3. A lot of the specs are similar: 8-core CPU, 10-core GPU, same memory limit, same storage limit. You actually get more battery life with the 14-inch. So that's a nice improvement. Obviously, bigger screen is a nice improvement. Better battery is good. Bigger and better display is good. HDMI port, SDXC card slot, and better speakers. Those are all just now built into the MacBook Pro 14-inch. So it's a nice replacement for the one it replaced. Of course, the step up is if you need more display support. If you need more than one external display, you need to go to the MacBook Pro M3 Pro model or M3 Max. More storage, more memory, obviously, with those as well, and more ports. So, yeah, and more money. Yeah, exactly. It's nice. It's unexpected because this has to be the shortest time in between when they revised a product line. Like they just revised it with this year with the new 14-inch and 16-inch models with the M2. And now they've just revised those with the M3 in the same year. So that's very interesting and awesome that they're so on top of it. And I think the product line is simpler. Also, I'm pretty sure the standard MacBook Pro 14-inch with M3 has the longest battery life of any Mac I've ever seen, 22 hours. That's an insane measurement. I should look through if there's any others that they reported longer battery life for, but 22 hours, that's very impressive to me. So Jerry, you and I both got the iPhone 15 Pro Max. Speaking of new stuff, this is still pretty new in my life here. I would have to say I'll revise my previous comments a little bit, or maybe just double down. They really nailed the Max for the first time. I've had the Max in the past. I even suffered through it for a year at one point, like maybe 3 or 4 years ago. And it was too big for me. And this one, I was feeling the same way. I was describing on the show, like it's hard to reach the opposite side and the opposite corner and this and that. But I have to say, I've kept it so far because I wanted to really test the camera more. And I've been very impressed with the 5X camera. It's amazing to have 5X built into the phone. It's noticeable when you're taking a shot where you want that kind of a zoom. It's very lightweight. It's not too big. Like it's kind of just the right form factor. And the lightness of it, the fact that it is lighter weight, I think I mentioned in the show, it's basically a very similar size and weight to my previous 13 Pro, not Max. And so that's why I gave it such a good try. And I have kept it so far. I threatened to return it at one point, or not return it, but sell it on eBay for a profit. And I've actually just kept it because it's been good for me. I haven't been annoyed by the size of it, and I do the benefit of the larger screen and the better camera. So yeah, how about you? How are you liking your Mac so far?
I have no complaints with the hardware per se, but have you noticed, and I've kept it completely up to date, have you noticed that everything seems to be a little bit buggy? I was using the action button, and I was one of those people that I saw online you could make a list of things you want to do, and it brings up the list. That stopped working with the 17.1 update. So I'm a little bit annoyed, not at the phone, but I'm annoyed at the software. That I think that they're still like smoothing things out. And I've had to restart it a few times. It's done weird things to me. I just didn't have those problems with the previous iteration, the 13, right out of the gate. So I think it has nothing to do with the phone itself. I think it's just software. Yeah.
Yeah, it's always a delicate balance, hardware versus software. I have noticed some of the software stuff too. Certainly when any brand new OS comes out, it's like chewing through battery life, or there's a bug. And maybe by design, maybe it's logging more things to detect more issues, and that's just a design choice by Apple. Or there's bugs where it's letting things run in the background. I heard about Instagram running away with like processor in the background and stuff. And so I was noticing it was getting hotter. I think in 17.1, I haven't seen that. So there were some of those things at the beginning. But even in the latest version, just a few days ago, I saw that when it snowed, I get a broken file icon on my widget. So I've been using... Is that what they're called? Home screen or lock screen? Yeah, this is actually a lock screen widget. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I've been playing with that stuff and really liking it because I didn't bother to do that on my 13. I didn't have a always on display, and I just didn't really bother playing with some of these new features, but I have in this new phone, and I've been enjoying it, adding things like I use Stripe for all my payment processing. So I've added a Stripe widget there that shows me my rolling revenue total I've chosen the last 4-week period. So basically by looking at that number, that kind of smooths out my revenue over the last, just shows me like what I've made in the last 4 weeks. And by comparing that day to day, week to week, I can just generally have a rough idea of what I'm on track to make this year. So it's very cool just to have that little indicator. It's almost like a little dashboard in my pocket that I can see.
Yeah, my business that is really neat. That is, I don't think that's available with some of these other payment gateways. If you had PayPal, or in my case, I'm using Square.
But the built-in weather one shows when it's snowing, it shows a file icon with text that's like overlapping other text. There's a bug, and I just actually read about, it's not just me. This is a bug when it's snowing. The little weather widget doesn't have an icon for that or something for the widget. So it's just so like funny. Bugs out. And it's just, wow, Apple in a 0.1 update. I guess it wasn't snowing anywhere in the country when they were developing this, so they couldn't really test it. I don't know. So one last thing on the iPhone, if you are then selling your old iPhone or buying a used iPhone, Apple has a page about both of those actually. But I thought this page was really interesting about advice for people buying a used iPhone. This is via the Scripting OS X newsletter, Scripting OS 10 newsletter by Armin Briegel, previous guest of the show and friend of the show, that there is a guide that Apple has about this. I don't know if you guys saw this link or checked it out, but it's pretty comprehensive and could be very useful, including like lots of testing instructions. So it shows you some tips about what to do if you're buying online, buy from a reputable seller, obviously, but like it goes way beyond that. And then it also gives you things to test on the device. So if you're maybe buying something in person, or you have an opportunity to test it after receiving it and then return it if there is damage, you probably want to find out sooner than later. So you can put it through its paces by following Apple's instructions. How to check for damage, how to check like what should happen when you turn on the phone, so that if it's activation locked and things like that, obviously, and whether it's been erased or not is important to figure out. So they have all this very basic information about how to evaluate the condition of the phone, how to check the health of the battery. Is it locked to a carrier, not just activation locked? Does it connect to Wi-Fi, how to check all the buttons, testing the camera, testing the speakers, testing the microphone, etc. So if you're selling your device, you can also follow the same instructions, because obviously your buyers are probably going to be able to do that. I think it's a good idea to look at this, and thanks to Armin Briegel for the link, and we'll maybe include it in the show notes, and good luck out there.
Only if Sam feels like it.
Yeah. I was going to mention, I'll send it to Sam, but like Sam hasn't been on the show, so it'd be a little weird to.
I just heard Sam laugh just a moment ago.
Hello.
That's weird. He's been listening this whole time, Joe, for an hour.
Yeah, exactly. You've been there. You just had nothing to say, Sam. That's
Yeah. I'm feeling quiet today.
Jerry does his voices of customers of all kinds.
Am I on the cloud?
Joe spins his deeply detailed yarns all the time.
I have a whole story about this.
Sam is on the road again, phoning in from a hotel.
At least we know where I am.
Half a century